there's a certain theme of structure that is present in every single relationship. You can look at it like building blocks. This is something our channel often does, to look at things like Tetris or Jenga and how they click together. But we want to explain to you today how friendships, how relationships, how they vibrationally attract and come to be. We feel that this is important information for someone to discern exactly why there might be a certain pattern coming into their life. Now, it is not the first time you have heard us say that we reflect, well, you as humans, you reflect what is inside outward. And when that happens, the problem with it is you reflect what's inside outward. All of your vibrational patterns, you attract what you are, whether or not you know you are it. You attract what you are. You attract how you feel. You attract what you fear. Because like will attract like because it's what it understands. It's what it resonates with. This is not a conscious choice for most people, but it is something that the subconscious is running. So when you attract someone into your life, we encourage you to take a moment and ask what this person could be showing you. Our channel was recently asking us about dreams that she has, dreams that she's had before she's met people that were significant in her life. And this channel, some of her friends are not local to her. She has friends from all over the world due to what she does. When she was doing readings and is doing readings, she has people she interacts with from multiple places, which means often she does not see them until she does. But she would always have dreams about people and not know why. Now, at the time, she thought, this is because these are long-lasting people in my life. They must be significant. Yes, significant, but not significant for the reasons that this channel believed. Significant because they had something very powerful to teach her. The connection would be intense, it would be powerful, it would be deeply connected, and oftentimes it would end. There would be something learned through this person that would forever alter the channel, forever alter that person. And so this channel was asking us, why does she keep attracting the same type of dynamic in relationships, in friendships, etc.? And so we wanted to dive into that in a very linear, logical way that you could understand. So you attract what is within you. This means everyone around you is representative of a vibrational pattern that you carry. So let's use the example of someone who is overgiving and someone who is avoidant. The person who is overgiving is going to pour into the cup of the person who does not take care of their stuff because they have a vibrational need. And so this suits both of them. This suits the overgiver because they'd rather pour into others than themselves. And it suits the person who doesn't want to deal with themselves because they're getting their cup poured from somewhere else. So you see that there's always a polarity in the dynamic. You will attract the people who serve the vibrations that you believe, the patterns that you believe. And so this is why so many people who are very deeply giving end up with people who might be narcissistic, and people who don't like to solve, they may end up with people who solve for them. And so this can be quite interesting because people will always ask, why do we have the same dynamics? And the answer is very purely because it's serving you. So if you are attracting the same type of dynamic in your life, we encourage you to sit down and we encourage you to do some self-reflection and go, what is this teaching me? How is this serving me? And why have I not broken it? Oftentimes these things are completely blind to you. They are not going to be things that you realize are actually occurring. They might be underneath the surface. They might be dynamics that you do not realize are actually running in the connection. And this is where it can become difficult to figure out what is actually going on. The only way you will figure out what is actually going on is if you look at this list of repeating dynamics. What do they all have in common? What do they all have in common? What does every single person that you've experienced this pattern with have in common? What will happen is you will attract, how do we explain this? The same person wearing a different coat. You might attract the same person in a different flavor, in a different scent, in a different, something just slightly different. So you're not even realizing that they're the same. You're not even realizing that this person is fitting the exact same vibrational pattern you keep running into. And what's worse is when you break this pattern, you will project it onto the next people coming into your life. So even if they don't meet it, if you're not aware of what the pattern is and why it's looping, you will project it onto the new people. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done with the person here. There's a lot of work that needs to be done with the individual. Because if the individual is not realizing that they are still in pain or looping from a dynamic that did not help them, they project it onto, let's say they broke the dynamic with the last person. But if mentally, if they haven't done the clearing of the emotion, if they haven't realized that they've met something new in a new person, they will project it onto the old person. And this will cause a breakdown of the healthy relationship. So you can actually be in between patterns. You can be not quite who you were and not quite who you're going to be. There's a lot of onus on the individual here. You may have a responsibility with each deep relationship in your life to take a sit down with an oracle deck or something that can read something back to you and investigate the dynamics of that friendship. You might want to investigate, okay, what am I responsible for here? What are they responsible for here? What dynamics are present? Where may I be repeating past dynamics? Is this a new dynamic? What do I need to know? How may I be educated on what this relationship is bringing me? And we would encourage you to do this with every relationship you have so you aren't flying blind. Because the thing is, this channel has a problem with assuming everyone is trustworthy. And we feel that many of you probably also have that issue, where you will take someone at face value. You will look at all the things that they do well and assume that the other parts of them are in balance when they are not. You will assume that because they treat someone else that way, well, they'll treat you differently because you have a different relationship. That's not true. There might be a tendency to ignore the true colors of a person when you step into a relational agreement with them and neither party is totally clear. And this can happen when the parties aren't being totally honest with each other. You might see this with people who struggle with people pleasing. If you have two people who struggled with people pleasing, that might enter a relational dynamic. They might not be used to being authentic. And so you will run into varying degrees of authenticity. You don't really know each other because you're not really allowing each other to be known. If you're not saying exactly how you feel and what your needs are, if you aren't a direct communicator, you may not see that person. And if you are not showing who you are, then you are automatically setting up all your relationships for failure. So let's talk about something that might be a very unpopular opinion. When you are entering a relational agreement and you are holding back parts of yourself because you don't know if they'll like you, you've committed a grave error. You've committed a grave error because what you are offering to that other person is a curated palette of vibration, and they believe that that's you. But when you inevitably show them who you really are, they do not understand the palette anymore. They are deeply confused. They do not understand what is going on because they thought that you were palette A when really you're palette B, and palette B has all this complexity and depth and things that they did not share and heaviness and judgment and all these things that they didn't put into palette A because they didn't think you'd like them. You cannot have a friendship or a relationship in this manner. It cannot be genuine. It never will be genuine. You need to be able from the get-go to be honest with the people you are connecting with, and if you cannot, we encourage you highly to move on. The reason is you cannot have authenticity here. The other person is not giving it to you, and they will not give it to you. They are inaccessible. They might be projecting a personality to you that is not real. They will try to make their personality as enticing as possible, and they figure, well, the more that I know you, the more that I'll open up and show you who I really am. That does not work, because the relationship you have built is false. Every relational agreement, no matter what the format, goes through tests. How you handle those tests will determine where the relationship can go. We talked recently in another video about 4 pillars of relationships. That is where we encourage you to go next if you have not watched that video. The reason we suggest it is because you need to know how to repair to have an authentic connection. If you cannot repair when something goes wrong, there is no hope of that connection ever moving forward. There is no hope of depth, no hope of authenticity, no hope of closeness, because any type of energy that is meant to reconnect will actually disconnect because the other person cannot receive it. The other person is looking at your authenticity and going, oh, no, that's not good. Except it is. There will never be a relationship that does not have conflict, and there will never be a relationship that does not have disagreement. If you do not have the basic skills of repair or authenticity, you will not go far. And so we encourage you to work at those skills. If you struggle to be open in who you are due to trauma in a relationship, we encourage you to simply say statements like these. That felt quite heavy for me. I am taking time to figure out my response. I am not ignoring you, but I am struggling with my own emotional reactions. I need time to deal with this. This is all boundaries. These are boundaries. If you share a boundary with the other person, even though it is scary, even though it makes you feel like you're taking up space, even though there's a risk of rejection, we argue that if you set the boundary, the relationship will probably continue. If you do not set the boundary, it will deteriorate, and what you are afraid of will happen. So those of you who are used to closing yourself off in connections and wondering why you do not stay connected, it's because your vibration is putting up a wall that says, do not get close to me, I won't allow it. And this is why you are struggling with connection. It is a vibrational front that other people can read quite quickly. And if you want to step into connection, you would have to take steps to connect. You would have to work at dismantling those patterns within yourself to have those deeper connections, because they cannot happen if you do not put out a lifeline. And so we know the lifeline is scary, but here's what we will say. Anytime you are afraid of something, here's the truth of what's happening. You are offering a contrasting vibration to what you are feeling. Which means if you are very afraid of connection, but you offer out a line of connection, you are breaking that vibrational pattern, and we would applaud you. But that is why you feel fear. It's simply because you're doing something that is a risk, but you have to take a risk to break those vibrational patterns, even if they are baby steps. And you know, a healthy person in your life will see those baby steps and applaud you for it. If they are healthy, you'll know because of how they react to that baby step. You will know. And maybe there might be a deeper part of you that does not want to admit that you already do know whether or not that relationship is something you can hold. And this does not mean that they are bad or you are bad. It means that you are not ready to meet them at the vibration they are emitting for whatever reason, whether that's good or bad. You might struggle deeply to be met with honesty. You might struggle deeply to be met with accountability. You might struggle deeply to be met with authenticity. Because if someone else is putting out an authentic vibration and you're meeting that and you cannot handle it, that means you are afraid of your own authenticity. You are afraid of your own integrity. You are afraid of your own honesty. Because what does that mean? Whatever it means is an illusion shattering. If you are afraid of someone else's authenticity and they are emitting authenticity and holding that vibration, hoping that you meet them there, what happens when you cannot meet them there is if you do meet them there, what does that say about you? Suddenly you have to own up to all of the things that you've done. Suddenly you have to own up to how you think and feel, and that you might have reacted in a way that was not the way you wanted to. You would have to start emitting that frequency of authenticity in all other areas of your life, because you can't just emit it in some areas. It's like a disease. It moves through the auric field. And this is where you run into problems, because you cannot hold that person's authenticity. You might not be able to hold trust either. Your vibrational patterns are hitting each other, because for you to accept that vibration, you would need to change. And for some of you, it's the opposite. If you were to lower into the vibration that the other person is holding, you would have to change in a way that is not good to you. It works in both ways. So if somebody is making you feel some kind of way, whether it's good, whether it's bad, we encourage you to sit with that, because what's happening is their vibration is exposing something in you, and they are asking you to meet it. That energy is asking to be met. If that's authenticity, you have a choice to make. And if that's disingenuousness, you have a choice to make. And so this is where sitting in the dynamics, what is this trying to show me? What might I be afraid of happening here? These can tell you very powerful things, because vibrationally, you are constantly mixing with the people that you have in your life. This can be positive or this could be negative, but you have power, you have awareness. If you need to know what is happening, if you, for example, if you are offering honesty and not being met, then you cannot survive in that dynamic, because it would cause you to become someone you do not like. It would cause you to become dishonest. We encourage you to look at the feelings you have and sit down with those feelings and go, what vibration could I be meeting? What feels like an affront here? What would happen to me if I engaged in what they are asking me to engage in? Am I ready for that? Is that a choice I want to consciously make? Every single person you intertwine with is changing you. That's what people do. And they can change you positively, and that can be a scary experience. Or they can change you negatively, and that can be a scary experience. But you have to ask yourself, this is why relationships might break down sometimes, even though everything on the surface is good. And that might be why your spirit team or your heart or your emotions or your gut, whatever you want to call it, your intuition, all of these factors, this might be why they will tell you you are not in alignment with a certain relationship, and you might not understand that. It is because what they are asking you to do is not in alignment with you vibrationally. If they are asking you to meet them in a place where they are being dishonest and you are an honest person, it will not work. If they are asking you to rise up to trust and you're someone who does not know how to trust, it will not work. You have to look at the vibration that they are emitting. There are some people you are not ready for, and there are some people who you have outgrown, but you have to be sure that what you gain from these people, there is gain on both sides, will change you either for the better or the worse, and what you choose is your decision. You can make a choice of conscious allowing to decide if you want to be altered in that way. But we encourage you, if you are someone who is choosing growth, if you are someone who is trying to become better in your relationships, to take this approach and sit down and go, what vibration are they offering? What vibration am I offering? What choice do I have in this scenario? Is it a choice I want to make? Does this feel in alignment with me? And if it's not, we encourage you to say that outright. We know that directness is not popular. We understand, but we encourage you to have that directness because you are offering a vibration of integrity. And when you offer integrity, you can see whether or not that person will bite at the integrity, will take on the integrity. And if they do, then you know that you have something to work with. If they take on the integrity, you know that there's a potential for repair. If you offer integrity, if you offer an apology, if you offer genuineness, if you offer open love and open communication and it is denied, then you know you cannot be within that vibration because it will alter you in a fundamentally negative way. For this person has not faced themselves in the way that they maybe need to, and it would cause you to deface yourself, to step away from yourself, to continue that dynamic. And that is not something that most people will want to do. Most people do not want to backpedal to keep someone in their life. And so that person has a choice and you have a choice, no matter what that relationship is. And this is where you can really start to understand vibrationally what might be going on within your relationships. And this can really help you determine whether or not there's long-term health available. So if you make a unilateral choice that you will not engage in anything that takes you away from yourself, as this channel once did, then you will find that a lot of things will fall away from you because they are not for you. But the things that do come in, you will have a choice. Do you want to rise to meet their integrity? Yes. So you know that a core value of all of your relationships must be integrity, which means the minute you see disintegrity, you ask yourself, okay, noted, I see this disintegrity. I see this. The next time it happens, you exit. And the reason you exit is because you recognize that that pattern is looping. The faster you recognize that pattern, the more clearly you can choose not to engage in it. But at first, it might be difficult. At first, it might be a choice. But you have to ask yourself, do you value this person more than yourself? For a lot of you, the answer might be yes. For a lot of you, these are not easy relationships to leave, to navigate, to do what you need to do within. And so we encourage you to take time with that because there are always shades of gray within a connection. There may be deep, deep love and a lack of repair. There may be deep, deep value, genuineness, love, and a lack of authenticity, and a lack of honesty, a lack of integrity, a lack of seeing things at face value, a lack of communication, a lack of like maybe something like avoidance. There's something that is not meshing. And you must be aware what you cannot tolerate. And so we would say you would need to look at the pattern and look at how the pattern is expressed. Let's say if there's trust issues or communication issues, this will be expressed as avoidance. You are not compatible with people who carry that pattern. If you are someone whose vibration emits trust and emits good communication, and that is just something you need to know. It doesn't mean that this person is not worth having in your life or that they are a good or bad person. This is often a mistake that a lot of people make when they are dealing with this. They will look at it and go, yeah, but this is a good person. I should not walk away. I love this person. I should not walk away. However, there can be no healing unless a different choice is made. There can be no connection unless a different choice is made. Because every time you offer your vibration and they do not meet it, you'll be asked to lower. They will be asked to heighten. There will be a breakdown. Because one of you is not willing to move, and sometimes both of you are not willing to move. They are not willing to rise up, you are not willing to rise down, or the opposite. This is where you need to not anchor into those relationships in your life. Like a boundary of when I notice the pattern of lack of trust, lack of communication, when I notice the pattern of avoidance, I cannot engage with it. And this is just a hard rule. It does not matter who the person is. Move on. This is difficult, but it will save you. It will save you a lot of vibrational disentanglement. So many of you actually struggle with entanglement in relationships because you are willing to forgive some things if you notice that that person is good or if they have potential. This channel loves Ariana Grande. And so we bring up the line, I saw your potential without seeing your credentials. Maybe that's the issue. And we leave it on that because you saw who they could be, who they could vibrationally be, and you assumed they would make the right choices. They did not. Or maybe you did not. And this is where you'll see, when you notice that pattern, you have to look for the credentials. Even though there's a green light if somebody is struggling with something, but they take the baby steps, they set the boundaries, they are trying to grow. That is different than someone who is outright replying with total silence or difficulty or not moving or avoidance or anger or any of those things that show that they are really struggling with changing the pattern or do not desire to. Every pattern that someone has is serving them. It's serving them. And so we invite you to be honest with this. How is it serving them? Why would they hold on to it? Are they ready to let it go? Would be a great question for you to ask an oracle deck. A great question for you to ask a reader. A great question for you to ask your spirit guides, to be honest. We prefer the most direct route. We did talk about setting up a language of signs and symbols. This would be a great time to set up a symbol for something like this. Like a red stoplight, for example, might be a do not engage with this relationship. Something of that nature, maybe not something so obvious. That is something that you would see really frequently. So maybe something a little bit less super visible, perhaps. But it is an example. It is an example. And so that is something that you could use if you felt aligned to it. Just the stoplight has to have there's something about it that stands out. That is when you would know it is a message. So if you're like, send me a sign, you're a sign, this would not be the approach that we encourage you to take. You want something that stands out, something that will be undeniable. You can look at it and go, okay, noted, this relationship is not capable of moving forward, even though they are funny, even though they are, magnetic, even though they are all these good things that I like, we are not compatible at a fundamental level. And we encourage you to not get tied up with people you are not compatible with on a fundamental level. And working with your spirit team to start discerning who those people are and why. Because it actually does represent a deeper baseline pattern of, I'm willing to love you through your growth. They have to choose growth for you to be willing to, they need to make that choice. So just because they can grow doesn't mean they will, doesn't mean that they want to, doesn't mean that it serves them. And this is where we are asking you to really look at the relationship patterns and get clear on them before deeply engaging with someone and throwing your whole heart into something that they never intended to throw their heart into the way that you did. They cannot match that vibration. You are maybe teaching them to grow into something, or maybe you're teaching them to leave something behind. It depends on where you are on the vibrational coin. But we encourage you to get really understanding. And if you are the person that is struggling on the other side, you can maybe tell them, I struggle with authenticity. I struggle with trust. I struggle with connection. I am willing to take this step, or I'm not willing to take this step. You will let the other person know whether or not you are healthy enough to maintain that connection. And so we really encourage you to start making discernment a practice in who you connect with.